Does the Quran make true predictions? Critics feel it doesn't. If you look at the example of the expansion of the universe, which was discovered in the 1920s, only about 50 years later did the Muslims come forward and say, look, the Quran predicted this already in the 7th century. But that is the point of the critic. They say, why do Muslims only come forward after discovery? Why not? Why didn't they predict it before the expansion of the universe? So does the Quran make true predictions? Yes, of course it does. Let me give you 2 examples. Now, the origin, or rather the question of whether life exists elsewhere, is a hot topic of discussion, but it's not science that has been established. Now, the Quran refers to multiple solar systems. I've discussed this before in chapter 71:15, to the plurality of Earth-like worlds. In 65 verse 12, to atoms and its subatomic particles, which is the raw material of all life forms. So it gives us the prerequisites for life. And in other words, these are necessary for life, or why there should be life elsewhere. And then makes a definite statement in 42 verse 29, where it says, he scattered life throughout the universe. And the word there is daba. These describe 3 classes of creatures. The primitive ones moving on their bellies, those moving on all 2 or walking all 2, like the bipedal dinosaurs and their descendants, the birds, and finally the more advanced reptiles and mammals walking on all 4. Then in other verses, it also refers to intelligent or advanced life. In 1993, 94, 95, where it speaks about beings being responsible for the deeds, having a free will, having a faculty intellect. And in 21 verse 4, they also have the possessed faculty of speech. So in other words, the Quran predicts here definitely the universality of life. Second example is that of mutations. Mutations are changes in the DNA. Now, when the DNA, when a change occurs and it confers advantage on the host animal, it will start to propagate and become the dominant form. If the mutation is deleterious, the organism will die off. So as I said, the mutation is a change in the sequence of the DNA. Now, scientists believe that mutations, they are copying errors. They are undirected. They don't have any foresight. They occur regardless of conditions. Now, according to Quran, there is a law that governs mutation processes. I'm going to quote you the verse. I've dealt with this verse before. Between 868, it says, the creation processes which are beneficial for a species are selected through a process of contention for superiority in beauty and excellence, occur according to the law and plan of the sustainer. Here it tells us there's a law governing selection in mutational processes. Here, there is we're not aware of a law that governs mutations, but there are different indications that such a law exists. For example, it was believed that, in the old biology, that changes occur in the DNA in the nucleus. This changes is then transmitted by the RNA to the cell and affects cellular function. And this is unidirectional. But now we believe that the flow can also occur in the opposite direction. That environmental factors, for example, can affect sensors in the cell membrane of the organism and then initiate protein changes which affect DNA activity. And this alters the expression of the DNA, which is then transmitted in the ordinary way back to the cells. So, in other words, the organism has access to mechanisms whereby it can assess the environment and make adjustments accordingly. In other words, mutations are intentional. They are directed, and this is a much more efficient process than waiting for a mutation to occur so that the organism can adjust to a changing environment. This is a much more efficient way of the organism surviving. Another example is when pathogens enter a human body. What happens is the immunoglobulin rate, it ups mutation rate. And this enhanced antibody diversity, which results in a more effective killing or better fit first of the antibody with the organism and a more effective killing. But this change does not only involve an exchange of DNA material. Further diversification occurs as a result of what we call a point mutation. And we don't know the exact mechanism of this. What we know is that this improves the immune status of the animal. We see, therefore, that there are rules and definite indications that a law exists governing mutational occurrences. I mean, if we just reason, think for a moment, scientists make sense of their fields because of laws. Without these laws, they wouldn't be able to make any progress. The universe is governed by evolution, which is fundamental to the universe. And the two key mechanisms of evolution is selection and mutation. Why should mutations be the exception? Random copying errors and selection infect all other natural phenomena, be subservient or subject to definite rules and law.